A villa made of reeds in the heart of the jungle with your own hands and in just a few days. Sounds tempting, doesn't it? Many bloggers show how they create such dwellings from improvised materials. Some claim they build mini palaces without any machinery. But as it turns out, not everyone is telling the truth. Today, we will expose YouTubers who pass off a project created by a large team as so-called primitive construction. YouTube channels continue to be popular with viewers dedicated to survival in the wild and building shelters. They attract millions of viewers with captivating videos about constructing structures in the jungle and other extreme conditions. Building a house is a challenging task in itself. But imagine no excavators, cement mixers, or trucks. Only you, the jungle, manual labor, and an indomitable willpower. This is exactly the approach demonstrated by the creators of YouTube channels dedicated to building villas in the jungle without using machinery. We see the channel creators chopping down trees and processing logs. They weave walls from reeds and make bricks from clay. Every detail of the house is the result of hours of physical labor and ingenuity. Being in the jungle comes with numerous dangers, from poisonous plants and insects to unpredictable weather conditions. Physical labor requires enormous energy expenditure and endurance. When watching such videos, viewers are amazed by the endurance and resourcefulness of the protagonists. But who started the trend for such videos? When talking about pioneers in creating this type of content, the name John Plant is mentioned. Millions watch as John Plant on his channel. Primitive technology recreates life in the Stone Age. The Australian YouTuber demonstrates the creation of building tools and the construction of structures from natural materials. He started posting his first videos about 10 years ago. Currently, his subscriber count is nearing 11 million. He explains in detail to viewers how he constructs various buildings, revealing his secrets. I built this hut with a tiled roof in the bush using only primitive tools and materials. The tools I used were made in my previous videos. It should be noted that I do not live in the wild and that this is merely a hobby. For most, it should be obvious that this is not a survival shelter, but an experiment in primitive building technology. This is mentioned in the description of one of John Plant's videos. He explained that he used a Celtic stone axe, which he made himself, for chopping wood. To carry water, he used pots, and he started a fire using sticks. John also had to build a shed for storing firewood and dry unfired tiles. The blogger explained how he built a wooden frame, the main part of which was fastened with strips of reed. He also described how he made the roof and reinforced the structure. A couple of years after he started filming, John bought a new plot of land to shoot videos about primitive technologies. The new location is a dense tropical forest with a perennial stream. The blogger started everything from scratch, detailing each step, and his meticulous work garnered significant interest. Other bloggers also present similar content to users. Let's find out if all of them are honest with their viewers. Sometimes, behind the impressive visuals and detailed descriptions, it's hard to notice the clues that raise suspicions about the bloggers. In the pursuit of popularity, some YouTubers present their jungle construction videos as truth. Let's examine specific examples. Among the numerous YouTube channels in this genre, the Asian channel Survival Builder and Jungle Survival deserve special attention. Although they appeared on the platform later than the Primitive Technology channel, which I mentioned earlier, their audience growth rates are significantly higher. Unlike the ascetic approach of primitive technology, Cambodian bloggers showcase more spectacular construction projects. They build underground dwellings resembling mini palaces, pools with homemade water supply systems, bamboo villas, and other complex structures. However, when watching primitive technology and its Asian counterparts side by side, you immediately notice the difference in the concept of running the channels and the frequency of publications. The construction and finishing of the house took the Australian blogger much more time than his Cambodian counterparts. When watching the videos, you can notice that the construction of structures shown on Asian channels often happens at an incredible speed, not matching the labor-intensive nature of such work. John Plant's followers release several videos a month with various projects. Even considering that the Cambodian team's Jungle Survival and Survival Builder consist of two people, not just one like John Plant, the quantity and quality of the content raise questions. In one of the videos, only the initial stage of work is shown at first, marking with a stick. Then the viewer is shown the finished result. A person is sitting in a huge pit. Part of the process is skipped, which raises doubts about the honesty of the content. Well, what if you don't plan to build a house yourself, but you want to get a high-quality, modern, and visually appealing dwelling turned to professionals from the Production Association? The system. is a leading manufacturing enterprise offering a full range of services from designing modular buildings and houses for various purposes, of any complexity level to the development of design projects, including interior finishing. The guys provide a guarantee for their work, which is very important in our time. Let's return to our channels, which convince viewers that the people on screen are doing everything without outside help. Another question is related to the removal of soil. Those who have dug a pit on a construction site or their backyard at least once in their life know that it is a labor-intensive process. Even with the help of construction equipment, it requires time and financial resources. We remember that only 2 people are building the house. They don't use machines and do everything themselves, and carrying soil by hand is a task that requires a lot of effort and time. In the videos of the aforementioned Asian channels, this process is not covered. A logical question arises, which concerns not only experienced diggers but also curious viewers. Where does all this soil go? The videos generally focus on the construction process itself, and the stage of soil removal is overlooked. It creates the impression that the earth simply disappears, leaving behind a perfectly level foundation for the future construction. We see the dug-out pit or underground palace, admire the created structure, and overlook this detail. And behind the scenes of these blogging masterpieces are likely hidden some logistical details that, for some reason, are not shared with the viewers. Viewers also have other questions, such as how the builders in the videos make the binding mortar, without which the construction of some structures is impossible. Producing cement is a complex technological process that requires crushing and firing limestone and clay in strictly defined proportions and fractions. Any specialist in the field of construction understands this. A few years ago, Western media platforms began questioning the plausibility of such videos. One of the bloggers asked for someone who had worked on creating jungle construction content to come forward. The response was not long in coming. The blogger confirmed the information from an anonymous source, citing similar investigations by other channels. It turned out that the anonymous informant was an operator for one of the survival shows. He worked on the set and saw everything with his own eyes. The man revealed the behind-the-scenes secrets of such projects, where bamboo villas seemed to appear as if by magic. He also talked about the specifics of the technological process and the actual number of workers. Some of the skeptics' suspicions were confirmed. There is evidence indicating that part of the work is done by hired staff off-camera. This creates the impression of independent survival and the ability to build complex structures with limited resources, which is a clear deception of the viewers. On camera, we only see 2 people, but in reality it's different. According to the source, the channel's team consists of 7 to 10 people, including operators, architects, and other specialists. The blogger managed to catch the content creators red-handed. This is what the construction site looks like from above. From this angle, it's clear that there are far more people on the project than subscribers assume. Another secret revealed by an anonymous source is related to the installation of engineering communications. In some videos, we see water flowing into a perfectly level pool through bamboo stems. This method has been known since ancient times. Bamboo is highly durable and flexible, and its stems can reach great lengths. They are hollow inside, which allowed them to be used as pipes. But as it turns out, in the videos about jungle construction, there is no bamboo plumbing. In reality, water transportation is carried out in a much more down-to-earth way. Special equipment is used for delivery. The perfectly clean and blue water in these reservoirs often puzzles viewers. The transparency of the water is a result of using tanks, and not some incredible bamboo water supply systems. Thus, the large-scale plumbing through which water is delivered from afar is just an illusion. But it looks impressive, doesn't it? Makes you want to try it out at your own summer house. And now, the cherry on top. About 70% of all excavation work is done by machinery. The main tool here is an excavator with a bucket. Sometimes the traces of machinery are visible on the site. Once, an excavator was caught on camera, but they didn't even bother to move it away from the general shots. Let me tell you another secret. Aerial photography analysis showed that there are construction debris dumps near the site. Piles of clay mixed with cement bags, wire, rebar, and other waste. This suggests that materials were used for construction that were not shown on camera. There are also questions regarding the environmental aspect. The construction of structures using machinery can harm the environment. The consequences of construction for flora and fauna are not disclosed. Why do some bloggers not reveal the whole truth to their viewers? The commercial aspect of this issue cannot be overlooked. The popularity of channels like Jungle Survival and Survival Builder brings significant income from advertising and sponsorships. However, when reality is deliberately distorted to attract more views, the question of the ethics of such earnings arises. Viewers invest their time and attention in watching content based on false information. John Plant himself is surely aware that a significant portion of the channels imitating him are fakes. Judging by the media space, he prefers not to interfere with this flow of fakes, allowing viewers to decide for themselves which information to trust. I would assume that Plant realizes that for some creators of such channels, this is a debate. A way of monetization, turning efforts into real currency. And he does not seek to stop this activity. Moreover, this situation likely does not cause him any concern. His position as a leader in his niche remains unshakable. Additionally, being a Bachelor of Forestry, imagine there is such a qualification in Australia. Planta has additional sources of income. The presence of fake channels does not affect his leadership position in any way. It is also known that John Planta wrote a book on survival in extreme conditions. His creation is interesting because all the technologies the Australian talks about have been tested by him personally. In his book, John Planta gives advice to those who also want to try making tools by hand and building a hut in the jungle. He recommends adhering to laws regarding trespassing on private property and nature conservation. When making a fire, one must be especially careful. It's important to study the landscape and weather conditions before attempting to strike a spark. Attention should be paid to wind speed and how much dry field is nearby. Perhaps you could create a cooperative or club with like-minded individuals so that everyone contributes to the cost of renting land, Planta advises. He reminds us that nature can be harsh. Hot coals can cause burns. Additionally, wild animals pose a danger. It's important to remember the risk of infection from various diseases through open wounds or by consuming contaminated food or water. The plan also calls for taking care of the environment. Natural resources should be used responsibly. It's always important to leave enough plants and animals for growth and reproduction so they can be enjoyed by future generations. And yet, what's wrong with John Plant's channel? Although John Plant's work may seem like a reconstruction of ancient technologies, it's not quite so. Plant does not aim to recreate a specific historical culture, but rather applies modern knowledge to solve problems using primitive methods. Even when he uses ancient technologies, the result often looks unexpectedly modern. Let's consider the making of pottery using the coil method. Although the method itself is historically accurate, the shape of the vessel, a jar with straight walls, is quite modern. Such a rational, modern-looking shape is absent in the archaeological record. The author's modern thinking is evident in the absence of traditional ornaments and ritual elements. As a result, we have a functional jar devoid of historical parallels. The overall approach combines primitive resources with modern knowledge. This direction is popular in contemporary post-apocalyptic literature. The characters can survive in harsh conditions thanks to the skillful application of scientific principles to create primitive but effective technologies, homemade water mills, dynamos, and the like. This is what makes such videos interesting, as their creators are our contemporaries, and therefore relatable to us. Let's figure out the reason behind the popularity of videos about building shelters and surviving in the jungle. Interest in such shows has deep psychological roots that go far beyond mere entertainment. This is connected to our evolutionary history, basic human needs, and the desire to experience thrilling emotions in a safe environment. We, as civilized people, are deprived of the necessity to fight for survival on a daily basis. The jungle represents an extreme environment that activates our primitive survival instincts. According to psychologists, by watching the participants, we safely experience something that would be too dangerous for us in reality. And complex. It's a kind of simulation that allows us to experience adrenaline, fear, and the satisfaction of overcoming obstacles without exposing ourselves to real danger. We draw conclusions about our own strengths and weaknesses by comparing ourselves to the participants. We ponder whether we could do what they do. Thirdly, survival shows engage our desire for knowledge and exploration. We learn about various survival methods, the plant and animal life of the jungle, and the capabilities of the human body. This satisfies our inner curiosity and desire to expand our knowledge about the world. Additionally, one cannot overlook the role of entertainment and the emotional satisfaction derived from watching such content. However, as we remember, not all bloggers are honest with their audience. Fake villa construction is not the only type of content that might be used to deceive subscribers. Another popular niche is component testing. And here too, you need to stay alert. Major media outlets and popular bloggers easily get components for reviews, as they have established connections with manufacturers. Authors of smaller channels have to rely on their own resources, purchasing components at their own expense, or seek help from friends and subscribers. For instance, one less popular channel showcased a lineup of graphics cards and processors and reviews over a few weeks. Such videos might lack a description of the testing and the video process itself. And here, it's reasonable to question whether all the components are actually on hand. You've probably come across a fishing video where a man pours a strange mixture of cola into a hole in the ground, after which a huge fish jumps out. Of course, you can't actually catch anything this way. It only ruins good products. In reality, there's another hole nearby where the fish are actually kept. After the man in the video breaks an egg into the hole, pours cola, and seasons it with Cementos, his assistant drives the fish into the hole, from which the poor creature jumps to the surface. How this trick was done was explained in the description of one of these videos. However, those comments were later removed. My video has come to an end. I hope I reminded you of the importance of critical thinking. Yes, many channels attract a large audience with their exciting content. But some build their popularity on distorting reality. And only the viewer decides whether to believe it or not.